Good Monday morning. I hope everyone had just an incredible weekend, and welcome to the first show of the day. It's Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Lenny and Andrea traveling back north today, and I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the labor drafts on the radio over the weekend. There was one Friday, Saturday, and yesterday. Mixed league yesterday, NL and AL before that. Lenny and Andrea heavily invested, and what you learn on there is the respect that Lenny and Andrea receive from all of the other broadcasters. It's incredible. It's just such an honor to be associated with you two guys, and so I hope you safe travels both today and tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about those drafts when you get back on your next podcast, Lenny and Andrea, because I know you've got stories to tell and more analysis to give. So I can't wait. I'm going to give you some analysis today. Here's what I'm going to do today, a little different format. I'm just take it division by division, news over the weekend. Let's take a look at players. I've told you I may go over the scores, but the scores of games are not as important to me as the status of players, how they're performing. And so this morning I'm just going to simply start in the National League East, look at some things that happened over the weekend. I'm sure I won't cover it all, but we're going to cover some ground this morning. So let's start with how about Philadelphia Phillies and their new acquisition, Zack Wheeler, who pitched Saturday. He allowed 2 runs. He pitched 2 innings. It was his first spring training start, so you got to give him a little slack on that one, right? He had a clean first inning, and then he gave up the hit to Randall Grichuk before giving up a 2-run homer to catcher Danny Jansen in the second inning. Now remember, Wheeler came over as a free agent, signed this 5-year contract. He's expected to be a leader on that pitching staff in Philadelphia this year. I think he's going to do really well. I really do, and he's a young guy. Now, he's pitched to an ERA under 4 each of the past 2 seasons. He's also averaged almost a strikeout per inning. So I think he is a top 100 pick in upcoming drafts. And I don't know how many of you guys have already begun drafts. I've got one, let's see, it's in 2 weeks. I have 2 on the same day, actually, that's Saturday. And then the Sunday before the regular season starts, I've got yet a 3rd draft I'm involved in. All 3 different rules. It's got to keep it straight. But Zack Wheeler, he's definitely going to get drafted. So depending on how many teams are in your league, are you in a 10-team, 8-team, 12-team? Some of you might be in a 15-team league. Pitching to me this year is not deep. And so do you roll the dice on a player like Zack Wheeler? I think so. He's not really had a lot of long-term injury issues. And so I think that, Wheeler's a great pick this year. Also, yesterday, Alec Bohm, you've heard of him. We've all heard of him. Great Philly prospect. And he's been making some progress in Philly's camp this year. He was the second-ranked prospect, or is the second-ranked prospect in the Phillies organization. And he has 7 hits in his first 13 at-bats this spring. Yeah. He has 3 RBIs. Last year, Baum hit .329 in high A. He was called up to double A, where he hit around .270. He had a .500 slugging percentage in double A. The Phillies' plan right now is to have Gene Segura play third base and Baum start the season at triple A. Now, do you look for Baum in the city of brotherly love before the season is out? I do. Now, the only question I've got is, how long is it before Baum makes his first appearance of the year? Who knows that answer? I don't. But I think we can certainly bet on the fact that he's going to be up. He's going to get the call. It's just a matter of when does it happen. And the Phillies are excited about the start to the spring he has had. So am I. I mean, wow. So there you go. Baum, a rookie. Wheeler, a free agent. that's a quick look at the Phillies, and that's how we're going to do the show this morning. What did they do this weekend? What's going on with them? Let's take a look at the Metropolitans, and I've got a lot of news here for you. So first of all, let's take a look at starting pitcher Steven Matz. And how many of you guys in the past have drafted Steven Matz only to feel like you got left beside the road? You know, I mean, you pick him up, you think he's going to be a great ride, and all of a sudden, whoop, he throws an egg, and he's cut. Well, Saturday he pitched against the Astros. He struck out one. He allowed just one hit over 2 innings, and he's in competition this year. Remember, the Mets have signed Michael Wacha, and there's a competition for the 5th spot in the rotation between Wacha and Matz. Matz, you know, went 11-10 last year, an ERA just over 4, a 1.34 whip. He had 153 strikeouts in 160 innings. But if Matz continues his strong spring, then he should win the rotation spot. So, now I'm saying a lot of ifs. If he continues his strong spring, he should be the 5th spot. If he's in the rotation, you got to draft him. Okay, now the Mets, have used Matz better as a relief pitcher or a spot starter. So if he goes into the bullpen as a long man, you talk about a hit in fantasy value. What a hit that would be. But right now it's looking more and more as if Steven Matz will be the 5th starter on this Metropolitan team. So while we're with the Mets, let's talk about Pete Alonso. The 2019 Rookie of the Year. He struck out twice in 3 at-bats on Saturday against the Astros, lowering on Saturday his Grapefruit League average to .067, 1 hit in 15 at-bats. He's yet to hit a home run. Okay, remember last year, 53 homers, 260 average. Despite his slow start, though, don't you have great vibes about Alonso hitting a lot of home runs this year? Now, do you think he's going to hit 53? I don't think so. I think he's in the 40s, though. So I project him to hit, 42 home runs. I predict him to drive in 110. And his average draft position on most boards is around number 30. Do you think on your board you have him higher? Do you have him lower? Or is he right there around that number 30 spot? Which means if you're in a 10-team league, he's at the end of the 3rd round. If you're in a 12-team league, he's in the middle of the 3rd round. So either way you do it, in either of those formats, you're probably a 3rd round pick. So if you are in the middle of your draft, you need to start looking, if you're a 6 or 7 pick, at possibly picking up Alonso in your 3rd round. Now, would he fall if he continues to slump like this in the spring? I don't think so. I think the key to me is he's getting his timing down. Is he injured? No. And so I'm thinking he's going to put up numbers. You're going to get a lot of strikeouts. You're not going to get much average, but you're going to get a ton of power out of Pete Alonso. Staying with the Mets, J.D. Davis and his sore shoulder. Luis Rojas said over the weekend that Davis should resume baseball activities soon. His left shoulder inflammation has been going down. You know, he jammed his shoulder last Tuesday diving for a ground ball. You just can't stop your instincts to go after those things, right? So he's getting reps at 3rd, trying to get that bat into the lineup. He's also going to play outfield, so he's going to be outfield 3rd base eligible. I think he's a breakout candidate. I think J.D. Davis is going to be hitting 25 homers this year. And it doesn't appear now, after hearing Rojas over the weekend and reading that report, that he's going to be limited on opening day. So it looks like a full season of J.D. Davis. Now, I think it's a good point to, as an aside for a moment, I did a lot of listening to a lot of different sources over the weekend, and it's unanimous. Players are saying that the baseball being used in spring training is the 2018 version of the Major League Baseball and not last year's version. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means last year, and Lenny mentioned it on his Sirius show yesterday, and I know he missed Andrea. So did I. I called in yesterday and we chatted for a moment. But at any rate, Lenny brought up the question that every team in the major leagues last year, except for one, the Chicago White Sox, had more home runs than they did the year before as a team. So of the 30 teams, 29 hit more home runs as a team last year than they did the year before. If we're back to the baseball the year before, then we're going to see less home runs, possibly, in 2020 than we did last year, when all kinds of records were broken. It's going to be an interesting April. And how will that affect players who last year had career years, who this year we think may have breakout seasons, J.D. Davis, based on the performance that we saw last season? Interesting. That's the tidbit for today. So look at prolific every year power hitters, not just those who had a great year last year. Let's stay with the Mets. Ahmad Rosario, the wear down king. Yeah, I mean, you get Ahmad Rosario April, May, June, he's awesome. And then you get into August, September, and he wears down. That's been his mantra. Now, he's got to show this year he is the man, because they have a shortstop prospect, Andres Jimenez, and they also have a kid, Ronnie Mauricio, who are getting really close to making their debut for the New York Mets. So what did Rosario do last year? Well, he did a good year, 287, 15 homers, 72 RBIs, 19 stolen bases. The Mets committed to him to be their shortstop. There was talk he might be tried out in center field. Jimenez, the rookie I was talking about, he's a better defensive player than Rosario. And Mauricio, the player I was talking about, has a higher offensive upside. Now, Rosario is certainly a 2020 candidate. His current ADP is around 130 to 140. But dynasty owners, take note. Rosario's job, it's not a definite with Jimenez and Mauricio breathing down his neck. And I'm going to look to see, and look, this is not news to Ahmad Rosario. I want to see what kind of numbers, what kind of year he puts up this season, knowing that these guys are, in fact, breathing down his neck. Now, one player I'm not worried about with the Mets, yesterday's starter, Jacob deGrom. It was business as usual, the name of the album cut by Men at Work in 1982. It was business as usual. Jacob deGrom, he went out yesterday, ho-hum, and threw 3 scoreless innings against the Nationals. He's the NL Cy Young Award winner last year. He gave up just 1 hit, struck out 2. He's coming off of, stat-wise, not that great, but hey, he was 11-8. The rest of his numbers are really good. 2.43 ERA, 0.97 whip, 255 strikeouts, and 204 innings pitched. Right now, I think on most boards, he's either the first or second pitcher off of the boards. His average DP is somewhere between 7 and 9. He's a lockdown SP1, and so I want to talk a minute about where we're going to draft pitchers, because deGrom brings up a great example. If you are one of these like me, who has ranked deGrom and Garrett Cole, who also pitched yesterday, we'll talk about that in a moment. You've ranked those 2 guys your top tier, because they're the only 2 in my mind that are top tier. Now, number 2 or 1A's Verlander. He's a 1A, okay? Flaherty, he's a 1A. But I feel stronger about deGrom and Cole than I do any other 2 pitchers in Major League Baseball. So, how high do you zig when everyone is zagging? And what I'm getting at is, if you're in the top 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever you're ranked, how quickly do you pull the trigger on those 2 starting pitchers? Do you decide, hey, I'm going to go get deGrom. I'm going to give him at number 3. I'm going to give him number 4. I'm going to give him number 5. Just because his ADP is 8